Hi, I'm Jill Clifton of Landscape of Mothers, and this is the last in a series of 5 videos about why parenting can feel so hard, or why it can be extra hard. And so this video, I really want to talk about what we can do and why Landscape of Mothers can be helpful. So we've talked about the points of the previous videos were really that it comes down to our skills and our nervous systems. And so our skills we can kind of pick up, right? We can pick up new communication skills. We can look into different kinds of communication. We can get in touch with our emotions. And really fundamentally, there's, I think all the landscape mothers actually help us do this, help us develop the inner mother, the one who's going to care for our own inner child wounds and is also going to help us be really solid parents. And the ways that we do this, these aren't skills that are picked up super easily. So it's not like you can just read a template and be like, okay, I'm going to do that thing. These are really things that we cultivate over time. They benefit all of our relationships. They especially benefit our children and ourselves because we're healing some of the things that we didn't get when we were children. And then because they also start to form sort of a set of skills that we teach by doing rather than by telling, right? So we're the ones in the middle who are doing the repair. So we're the ones who didn't get something as children, and we have to create it for ourselves, and then we hand it on to our children. And this is the way that we break old family patterns of abandonment, of dismissal, of control. And it's not easy. It's big, big work. And the way that we do it best, because we're dealing with nervous systems, is often that we do it through small things that we take on, and we do them over and over and over again, right? That consistency builds an inner sense of trust. It builds a sense of trust with our children. Our consistency gives us a sense of being solid and present, and that translates again to our children's nervous systems. Their nervous systems get to be more regulated. They're mapping onto us. They're mapping onto us as regulated, self-soothing, competent adults. And so while the children may still have lots of emotions, and they may still go through a lot of tantrums and not being able to figure out their emotions, and there's a long development of being able to name what's happening inside of us or to catch it early enough. And you get to hear my neighbors practicing right now. But this is why we do this work, right? Is because as we take care of our inner systems, then we're good maps for people to map onto. And it doesn't mean we're flawless maps, and it doesn't mean we do everything perfectly. But what we can do is begin with, in the last video, I mentioned Ocean Mother. She's the one who's kind of pulling these things back from our depths so that as we're frustrated or parenting feels so difficult, Ocean Mother's kind of delivering these little nuggets to us and saying, here, work on this one. Oh, here's a place that we can do this. Here's a place where we can apply this. Here's a place to take care of yourself. Here's a place where your inner mother can be further fortified, right? So we can start to take some of this frustration in parenting or the difficulty, and we can start to transform it a little bit. It doesn't mean it isn't difficult. It doesn't mean it isn't challenging, but it does mean we can start to meet it with a sense of empowerment rather than a sense of brokenness or a sense of lack. So that's the first thing. Ocean Mother is kind of giving us these little pieces of ourselves back. She's offering these renewal places. And then Sun and Moon Mother can pick up those gifts and work on the renewal and the showing up over and over, the way that we take little steps to regulate ourselves, to teach our kids how to regulate themselves, how we we start to tend to our own needs for rhythms and cycles, and we start to tend to our own need for a pause, for a break. And we end up having to do these in really creative ways because it depends on what our situation is a lot of the time. But these are the offerings of the landscape of mothers, right? And once we start to get this tending going on inside of us where we're taking care of and we're fortifying our inner mother, we're taking care of that inner child, and the discomfort and the disconnections and the lack of ease around things changing, around other people's big emotions, around neediness, all these things are things that kids naturally have and need us to help them work with. And as we're working with ourselves, then we can begin to work with our children on them. So if this feels like a difficulty that you're experiencing, I'm going to invite you to go toward Ocean Mother and to Sun and Moon Mother as places that you can begin to do this work of finding out what the gifts are from the ocean, starting to give it a container. So Ocean Mother invites us also to give these experiences a bigger container than just being inside of ourselves, right? There are systemic problems. The lack of emotional intelligence is a systemic, like, cultural issue. The lack of being in touch with or connected to nature and other human beings is another systemic and cultural, often at least partly cultural driven thing. And I'm not discounting that these things were important in our individual development, but I'm saying that when we can offer it a bigger context, then sometimes it's a little bit easier. There's a little less pressure on us as individuals. And I know that for a long time I had this sense that because I struggled so much that somehow I was broken or not enough, or that I wasn't a good enough parent and stuff like that. And I think that this ability to put it in a bigger context of cultural prescriptions for individualism, for not having emotions, for productivity, for urgency, that context lets me offload some of it so that I have more room to do the individual work that needs to be done, the tending to the inner child, the renewal of the inner mother. And then I'm a better parent for it. And this is really just an ongoing, long-term commitment to doing small things that make a big difference. So I hope that's helpful in starting to get your feet under you, to offload some of the pressure on you, and to be able to approach this frustration with some greater, at least, sense of ease and releasing some of the burden on you personally. So if any of this still feels difficult, or it doesn't feel like you're sure what Ocean Mother or Sun and Moon Mother can offer, don't hesitate to reach out. You can send an email. You can get the book if you don't have it already. And there's stuff on my website. I'm starting to run some classes and workshops, so you can look at landscapeofmothers.com for some more support. Thanks.